Hello, this is episode number 37, the first in the new year. Oh, sorry, okay. Okay, stop burn. Okay, as you can see, the new year started with burn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we started late because we had some technical issues, and the whole new year, it needs a fresh energy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like you guys were saying in the comments. Dominic was saying we're deliberately keeping you guys waiting because we want to make you curious about the Ampex. No, we just couldn't get ourselves ready in time. That's the reality.
Yeah, we teared down the whole video studio and then cleaned the room. So the room is fresh and clean, but then the cabling was all over the place.
Yeah.
And nothing worked as it should be. And New Year's Eve for me was the first time I was actually home, not playing, because I was not allowed to play. Yeah,
because normally you'd be playing in Saarbrücken, right? In a special venue. Yeah.
Yeah, I have my New Year's Eve concert, and we tried, to make live stream concert. Everything was forbidden. So next thing happened. My girlfriend got COVID-19, and we didn't know at the beginning. But the first symptoms, I was already okay, stay away, and I was like, oh, do I have it myself too? I mean, and she's like sleeping every day, like 14 hours, no taste, but she's already on the way out, so which is cool. But I thought, being in the room with people, I got myself a test yesterday. I'm negative. So the song I was just playing is a very old song of mine called Still Alive, which kind of sums up after 2020 where we are now. Yeah, still alive. And I was checking what was happening 50 years ago. I did this last year already with a few other, what was happening in music. And I was checking here in the internet, and it's unbelievable what kind of crazy records were released 50 years ago, which means in 1971.
71, yeah.
Yeah. Number one was Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. You know that?
No, not really. But you can teach me the chords,
okay. E with a C sharp.
Okay.
And then it's a C sharp minor with a 4 or 11.
Yeah.
And then release for this. Okay.
Yeah.
So this was one of the songs. I have a couple of more, which...
So that was the top song 50 years ago, the best-selling song of 1971.
At least that was the guys here on the internet say. Then there was number 2, Led Zeppelin 4, which is... So that album. And then Who's Next is, this... Baba O'Reilly.
Yeah, okay.
Come on, let's have a go.
Yeah, I can do that as well.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. have Face ID. Okay. Johnny Mitchell Blue, which is a fantastic album. Sly and the Family Stone. Carole King. Rolling Stones, I got that one. Sticky Fingers. You know, look at the cover. Yeah, Sticky Finger. This is the one with brown sugar. Of course, Keith Richards plays it in G with his, you know.
Yeah,
Okay, that's the Rolling Stones. Then there is LA Woman by the Doors. At Fillmore East, the Allman Brothers Band. Yeah, it's a classic. Imagine, John Lennon. David Bowie, Hunky Dory, I don't know that one. Jazz Brutal Aqualung, which is... And then, of course, what is the one?
Locomotive Breath. Yeah.
Locomotive, yeah, that was the hit.
Isn't it amazing how many of these records are actually now known as classic guitar records, and the whole of the top 10 or whatever that is guitar-based music?
Absolutely. Next, here, I'm just following the list. On 13 is Yes, Fragile. Then T-Rex, Electric Warrior. Janis Joplin, Pearl. That is a... I played that song a couple of years ago. Killer. And what was the next? Rod Stewart, Every Picture Tells a Story. Funkadelic. Black Sabbath. Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney. Pink Floyd. Cat Stevens. The Beach Boys. Another one with Yes. All Green. I don't know this one. Jill Scott Heron. Okay. Bill Withers, Curtis Mayfield, Alice Cooper, Ken, Nielsen, Bob Marley. Hey, Isaac Hayes, Shaft, you know, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
David Crosby, Faces, Santana 3, Alice Cooper, Van der Graaf Generator, I don't know, Genesis, Curtis Mayfield. Unbelievable. You know, I mean, I'm only at 44 and there's more. It's Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Deep Purple, Fireball, Jimi Hendrix, Focus. My dear friend Thijs van Leer from Focus. Moving Waves is from that year. And here is Jimi Hendrix, The Wind Cries Mary. No, The Wind Cries Mary. This is The Cry of Love. This is the CD, which has been released in '71. And this is kind of leftovers from his studio, where Jimmy was producing it. So it's unreleased tracks, but not some of those where nobody actually was still involved. So this is the original lineup, and this is where I stole the intro of my song, you know. So that's me, and this is Jimi Hendrix. Well, I stole it. You know?
No, it's an homage. Let's call it that.
I call it homage. Yeah. And what else? Yeah. Wait a minute. Focus 2, Moving Waves, Crazy Horse, King Crimson, Captain Beefheart.
Yeah, that's which album was that?
Captain Beefheart and his magic band Mirror Man.
I'm a huge Captain Beefheart fan.
Really?
Yeah, I've even seen the Magic Band play. I was way too young for, they disbanded before I existed, but I've seen some of the guys who played on Trout Mask Replica play and that kind of stuff. John French, the drummer, and...
Wasn't he also doing something with Frank Zappa later on?
Yes.
Okay, this is where I know the guy from.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? Captain Beefheart.
It's amazing that kind of music was in the charts.
Yeah, Stevie Wonder, Mountain, James Brown, Booker T and the MGs, the Moody Blues, Elvis Presley was still there. James Taylor, the Isley Brothers, Rory Gallagher, Uriah Heep, Gentle Giant, Wilson Pickett, household names, America, Uriah Heep again, blah, 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 and so on and so on. So what I'm saying is 50 years ago, there was a lot of good energy. And I'm hoping we get that back. We're still in the lockdown here in Germany, and I guess all the rest too. Somehow I'm wishing for, things to become normal and to get to the point where we can really be ourselves again.
Yeah, because of course normally at this time of year anyway, mid-January or early January, we would be preparing to jet to Los Angeles to go to the NAMM show, which has happened every year, and I think the last 30-something years you've done that, right?
I've done that many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I miss that, and they do kind of a virtual event too, but I don't know. Anyway, we stay home, and what are we doing when we stay home? We work on AmpX. So we make the best of what is possible. But to be honest, everything takes longer than we expected. And the COVID thing is also slowing down certain things because we have suppliers and some don't react and things kind of, we are waiting. I'm getting impatient too. But we, the team here with BluGuitar, we kind of can focus on that project and move that forward. Before we can unveil the whole thing, which is not ready yet, I would like to explain the technology, because I think the guitar world needs to understand what is actually different and what it is good for, what can be done with the AmpX and what cannot be done with the AmpX, just because of what it is. So for me, the whole point in this amp is, for me, it's a totally logical progression from where I started, where I come from. You see, there's a little Hughes-Kettner transistor combo behind you in the back. Somebody can show that maybe. Yeah, which doesn't have a speaker out, so we cannot put it in our switching system, unfortunately. And of course, you all know I've done tube amps, and I was involved in modeling. And after working with all this kind of different technologies, I think I was at a point where I could sum up these different technologies to make something next level. Okay, to explain this a little bit, we have a little thing prepared here that shows the advantages and disadvantages of certain technologies. I mean, if you look at the first technology, we should start with tubes, which is here in the middle on this sheet, because the history of amplification kind of started with tubes.
Yeah.
And what did you hear about tubes? What is your common knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, for me, growing up as a kid I'd say I got interested in guitar in the 90s.
Yeah.
And that's, 25 years ago now, pretty much. And tubes then were still
the thing.
The real deal. The thing that you had to have if you wanted to be an authentic guitar player and if you wanted to achieve the tone of the rock stars, the guys that we just listed on that list from 50 years ago.
Right.
If you want to sound like Hendrix or Jimmy Page or anyone of that kind of caliber, you have to have a tube amp. And if you don't, you're lost. And I think the other options at the time,
Yeah.
there were solid state amps around
Right.
then. And I think in the mid-90s, some kind of baby steps in the modeling world had started.
Line
but
6
it
was there with
yeah.
the whatever Veta or AX2 or some weird UFO.
Yeah, but it was very early days, and I think no one was taking it seriously,
Yeah.
as they do now, of course.
Yeah.
And I think that, yeah, back in the day, I always aspired to have a tube amp, and you always, or at least me and my friends, we always looked to the artists that we liked,
Yeah.
and they all played tube amps, of course.
Yeah.
For me, I was a big AC/DC fan.
Yeah.
Not Angus, Malcolm Young.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe as you've heard from my playing, I just play rhythm. But those guys played walls,
Yeah.
massive stacks of Marshall tube amps, and
Yeah.
that was the thing you had to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the end, I settled for a Marshall AVT or a Evolved State combo or something like that. It was not the real thing, but I was halfway there.
Halfway there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the point is, today tube amps are still the benchmark of tone. Nothing has changed. Every guy that does modeling, every guy that has a camper, still profiles the good old tube amps.
And of course, all the good modelers today, they also say in their marketing, it sounds just like tube amps. It feels just like a tube amp. And of
Yeah.
course, if tube amps weren't this real thing, you wouldn't aspire to them, and you wouldn't need to put that in the marketing, would you?
Yeah, and so I mean, everybody kind of agrees on tube amps is the real deal in feel and tone. I mean, if you are a listener, you probably cannot tell the difference of maybe a camper if you're not trained. If you know, if the tone is cool, if the player is great, you are impressed.
Yeah.
So, but if you are a player, and if you play a tube amp, it has a total different feel to me than any modeler. I'm saying any modeler. That's me. If you are the kind of guy that doesn't feel the difference, fine for you. I mean, your life is easy. Buy something modeling cheap and you got everything you want and need, because the modeling technology offers you everything, unless that's too much for you. But hey, you can buy a product and just recall one preset, and if that's the holy grail preset for the rest of your life, you know, get some, you know, nice duct tape and have the power on switch and the master volume. But for me, these products have never touched me as a player that knows tone, that knows tube tone, that knows how the guitar, the electric guitar, interacts with the amp and the speaker.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not a choice. I spent 5 years of my life designing a modeling amp with Kettner, and it was the boss of mid-digital amps back in the day in 2000 and whatever. And it was the thing after Line 6, raising the quality level. And I had all the guys from Fender, Richie Fliegler, and you know, the industry where all they're sneaking, smelling, checking what's going on here. You know, these guys got kind of awarded by the Guitar Player magazine. And so back then, I was involved in a digital modeling project at highest level.
Was that the Kettner Zentera?
That was the Zentera.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, and it nearly killed the company because everything first took so long because it's so complex. Second, it had, you know, there was like a big hole where all the hours and the money went. You know, all the people being involved in the project. You know, there was another month and another month and another budget and another budget, and then finally it was there. But groundbreaking technology takes extra efforts in time and money.
Yeah.
And when it was finished, it was the best. I mean, at that time. I have to admit that now there are better products on the market in this digital domain, because there is always an evolution, which I think is supernatural. And I used modeling products even after that. I've recorded a whole album for library music when I was on vacation in Australia. And so I just had my laptop and I used plugins. And of course, I know how to tweak the whole thing and have an extra compressor here and kind of get it sounding real in a way, and so I can cheat. And the guy from the record company, from EMI Germany, then when he listened back to the album in his office, he put it on the CD right. I said, this was a blackface? And I said, yes, sure. And it wasn't, you know. I just had I was tweaking my settings. So it was good enough and fake enough to make him happy. So what I'm saying is there's some moments where I'm open to that kind of technology, and I think it's an advantage, because if you have a laptop and you use software, you can't get any more compact, you know. So I would still use digital stuff anytime for this kind of job, you know. And I had a great vacation in Sydney at Maroubra Beach. For those who know,
nope,
check it
never
out.
been there.
It's about 2 kilometers of a white sandy beach, and they have a rock pool, so you can go have a swim in seawater where the sea kind of gets into the pool when the water is higher. It's just fantastic.
So why do you think the Zentera never became the success that maybe it deserved to be? Was it just too early for the world to accept this technology, or was it too expensive, or was it not practical, or a mixture of all those things? Maybe?
Yeah, kind of a mixture. I mean, first it was very, very expensive. Second, it was a complex product, and it wasn't supported by the company. You know, if you have a new product, like the Amp-1, for instance, and that's the reason why I found my own company, is if you make something new, you have to be out there and believe in it. You have to say, hey guys, maybe you get it next year, maybe you don't get it ever, but the next guy gets it 3 years later. Because if there's something new, it's kind of, oh, this is not an amp. You know, Amp-1, what is it? This looks like another overdrive pedal or with a power amp. It doesn't do the real deal thing. Or, you know, people don't believe it at first glance. And then when they revisit the whole thing second time, they go, oh, maybe it's not that bad. And then, you know, you have to find your settings to get in your comfort zone. And then you have to make your personal experience with the product where you go and say, you know what, I don't think I need that big whatever amp because something was good here, you know? But this is step 1, 2, 3, that takes time. And back in the day with the Zentera, using Kettner was kind of, it needs to be the big thing, and they tried very hard, and then it was the big thing, and then it wasn't that kind of super big thing and then they lost interest. And I believe you have to be more consistent in a way. And you know, the Amp-1 is out since 2014, when I showed the first prototype at a trade show, and we delivered the first amps just at the very last days of that year. And then the first production run was like in 15, the real production run. And, you know, now it's 21. It's a couple of years already. And the Amp-1 to me is still what I asked from that product. I mean, to me, it's still, I'm not missing anything. I mean, the Amp-1 has replaced my tube amps on stage and in the studio, but I'm not doing that much studio stuff anymore. Got something downstairs for next week. Guesting on some killer guitar player's album. One day you will hear it. Okay. Okay. Anyway, and I'm so busy doing the Amp X stuff. But on the other hand, so my whole living room is wasted at this point. But the point is, the Amp-1 is still doing what I had in my mind. Is like no compromise versus a tube amp. And it is not an all tube amp. So looking at our list here, We know tube amps are the real deal, the best sound, the best feel dynamic, the classic rock stars played and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, they're expensive, they are heavy, and sometimes they are too loud. And that's another issue. People come and ask, do you have a power soak? We do have a power soak with the Amp 1. So I'm very aware of that fact of power amp saturation, power amp feel, sagging, distortion, or whatever happens with the power amp when you play it at high volume, at lower volume, at stage volume. So the point is, all that is already in the Amp 1. Okay, but using different technology. And it is, a lot of this is solid state technology. And you guys out there, as if I would be not involved in my own stuff, I would think, yeah, solid state, it never was great. So, you know, I remember solid state amps like this little fellow that I also voiced, and I tried to do my best, but it was not the real deal. So for me, I was not interested. And I think, do we have the AC/DC AB video? Because this is a video that shows the real deal. I mean, my holy grail, a real Plexi 100 watt, 1967 Black Flag, original thing with that channel. I just cranked it, and this is as AC/DC as I get with a borrowed SG. But can we listen to this thing? Because this shows you Amp 1 versus all tube. And if you hear a difference, I can only tell you I didn't feel any difference. But check this out. Yeah, so at the end, I had a booster switched on, which was on both amps. But when I was playing, I was using, you know, Angus Young is also using a booster in front of his Marshall. And so I used a similar kind of thing to make both amps equally good. So there was not, the booster didn't make any overdrive. It was just increasing the gain a little bit and interacting with the guitar, because it comes from his wireless system, and so that's part of his tone as well. So if you hear a difference here, let me know, and I will be happy to make a blindfold test with anyone against this amp. What I'm saying is the Amp 1 is very similar to this particular amp, and I'm also saying that the Amp 1 is not able to mimic or duplicate every amp. So the technology used in Amp 1 is basically a traditional design, which is a 4-channel preamp into a 100 watt nanotube driven Class D power amp, and this is what I had in mind for Amp 1. Amp 1 is a classic amp, just in a different format, with a reverb and a boost and an effects loop, blah, blah, blah. So, do we have our block diagram of the Amp 1. And if you look at that, I can explain a little bit. So I have one myself, hopefully here, because, here we go. And this is, okay, guitar in. There's a little input buffer. There's the booster, which is actually switchable. And this boost is also, adjustable with a custom control. Then what is green here is the second gain, which is internally, that's the thing that we use for the low gain mode. That makes the whole amp more flexible. It actually is compensating treble bleed of the gain control or the clean volume. So that's a thing that makes the amp sonically more flexible. And then you see clean, vintage, classic, modern, 4 channels. And then on the output of clean, classic and modern, there's a post EQ that can blend. And the post EQ is kind of, I have 2 tone stacks that I can blend from. One on the left, which is a warmer sound based on one particular amp that I had in mind or something that I made up. And on the other side is a brighter sound. And that's also to make the amp1 more versatile. The same for the classic channel and the same for the modern channel. I didn't do that on the vintage channel because I still have the 3-band tone control and I wanted that puristic. So the vintage channel is a character that you dial in with a 3-band tone control and you match all the other channels and custom controls to that vintage. That's my concept. And this is how flexible it is. And as we could see over all the episodes we've done last year, it is already super flexible. Mm-hmm. But I have to admit, I'm not able to do anything. So this kind of concept is the amp1. The good thing about that concept is once you find 1 or 2 or the sounds that you want from that amp, you're done. Because it's all in there and it doesn't get any smaller, it doesn't get any lighter, and it doesn't get any better. It's just limited in the way of versatility.
Yeah.
So, of course, amp1, great, and then Iridium Edition shows that the same concept can be voiced like a traditional amp towards another sound genre. Mm-hmm. And so I could prove that it goes from jazz to metal and everything in between.
Yeah.
And I think by now we have enough people that would agree. At the beginning, it's like, what is this guy doing? What is this box doing? And I think by now we can agree it is like a tube amp, but it is like tube amps also limited. There's a natural limitation of that kind of concept.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is you have to convince people, don't you? Because the history of guitar music is dominated by full
Tubes.
stacks and 100-watt tube heads.
Uh-huh.
So when you come along with something like this, which is totally different, but you claim offers a similar performance, then of course people are going to be skeptical. I was skeptical.
Sure.
I think probably all of the guys watching this were skeptical as well.
Yeah. And the only way you can prove that is actually experience it. And I had to make the same experience. But by now I played every gig since 2014 on the amp1.
Yeah.
And I know how tube amps worked in my life for decades, and I already know how the amp1 works for me over half a decade. And I'm totally happy. I'm not missing anything. I simply could replace my old pedal board with my new pedal board, and there's another episode which was maybe 35 or something, where I compared my rig from 10 years ago to my current rig. Okay, but now the idea in my head was like, what is the next step after the amp1? and let's call it M2, the amp that never has seen the light. But yeah, we have a little schematic here, and then I thought about, man, let's make the thing more versatile. Let's go and make more stuff possible. So there is input, and then there is a shape A and a shape B, and so I have a more versatile input already. Then there is a boost amplifier A and B, like two different boosts, and these can be, I can choose from different kind of boosts, pedals. And then that's a technical, the pre-clip treble bleed gain. That's a stage in an amplifier that kind of makes it a bit more versatile. And then you can see I kind of doubled amp1 concept by having clean one, vintage, blah, 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 4 channels, and then the same kind of 4 channels again with a different voicing or different character. So the point here is that's a way how to make it more flexible. And of course I can have my custom controls and get even more details from there. And then it comes back to the 3-band EQ, and then add some effects. This is what I put in the amp and said, okay, that's something. And I mean, this would be already quite impressive amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
But I made a discovery, or we made a discovery, because I'm not alone. I'm just a guy that is crazy and that experiments, and then I come up with an idea and say, hey guys, if we could make a stage so flexible that it can be any boost. Let's start with something simple, like any boost. Because what is a boost? Okay, some boosts, they make more output, they make more gain. Other boosts, they change the frequencies a little bit. And the next boost has a little overtone spectrum because there is a slight overdrive going on. Sometimes you don't hear it. And then the next one combines all the 3 effects. If we take like a tube screamer as a boost, people go and dial off the gain because they don't want the clipping. So they just want the boost volume and the color of the tube screamer,
yeah,
honk mids. And then there's another boost that I like, the range master, and that interacts with the guitar and blah, blah, blah. So what about if we would make a schematic and a pedal that can be any boost? And then we did a few spider prototypes. And the scary thing was, it is possible. I took 20 boosts from my collection to A/B it, to check if that kind of vision can be real. And it was scary. It was simply, after 2 hours, my whole collection could be replaced by this one schematic, just dialing in different parameters.
And this was all analog, wasn't it?
All analog.
Yep.
So I'm talking all analog here. At this point is because I'm the big believer in analog, because of my knowledge about digital technology, about their limitations. I can tell you things about how to test digital amps, what they can do and what they can't do. One thing is, like, you play a high note and you make a slow bending. And if they have there's a certain digital effect that happens with some products, and it makes so some smeary, swishy, swashy noise coming on. And it's not happening if the pitch is right. It's just when you make that. It's like when you're what did the engineer always say when your grandmother starts to moan? There's some undertones. And to get rid of those, you have to limit the bandwidth and blah, blah, blah. And because the overtones create undertones. And it's a weird thing. And in the analog world, this effect is not existing.
Yeah.
So we can be open, we can do anything without having restrictions. And that's why, by nature, I'm an analog fan.
Yeah.
And also, there is no latency, there is no conversion, there is no nothing. It's the purest way, just like tubes, because tubes are analog. And the electrons, to me, when they reach the speaker and they have been twisted and processed in a way in the analog world, they don't. The electron doesn't know if it was treated by a tube. We know because the glass bottle looks so great, but actually the sound is the effect of that magic glass bottle. The rest is physics. I can recreate that effect with other means, like the amp-1, not with big glass bottles and not with big transformers.
Yeah.
So for me, first getting rid of all that stuff that I always could do with the amp-1 big transformers. This is using switch mode power supply. It works anywhere in the world. It weighs nothing, and it has tons of power. Super effective. Next thing is, I was able to get all analog into out, and now with this discovery, getting the flexibility. Okay, we can recreate boost pedals. Maybe we can recreate drive pedals too. Okay, we can recreate wah-wah pedals. Piece of cake. It's scary. Can we recreate amplifiers? Yes. And that's what was the moment where I thought, wow, that's not amp2, that's amp-X.
Yeah.
So, and now this technology means we don't have 4 channels. We have 8 channels like on the amp2, which never came out. We have only 1 channel, but this 1 channel is so flexible that every little section of the channel, of the amp, is so flexible that it can be any amp that I know, and hopefully any amp that we will recreate over the next 10 years. And this, this is, nobody has this technology, because we had to come up with a new concept for tone control, because standard tone control is whatever your 3 knobs or 4 knobs, and there's a few capacitors, and that's it, and it gives you a character, all good. But if you want a different character, okay, Blackstar has something where you can move the notches, not bad, but still, it's not going to everything imaginable. So I think we worked over half a year just on that flexible EQ, guitar amp EQ, which is not a traditional design with, I know it's a, parametric with some things, and no, it's a total new concept, because a parametric EQ works totally different from a standard guitar amp EQ. And then I wanted that guitar amp feeling, because I'm not about a technical device. I want a musical thing that is as analog and as real as the old school tube amps. So that's just one example of how deep stuff is there. And the end is now to control that EQ and to control all that other stages. Everything needs to be flexible. So everything needs to have like motor pods or like programmable parts, and controlled, of course, digitally, because manually it takes me 1 day to dial in another tone, and then it's maybe not precise, you know, because, oh, sorry, I have the value on parameter 47 on not all the way where it should be, and then it's wrong. So you need to have the digital precision. So the amp X now is using the all analog signal path from in to out, through analog wah-wah, through analog booster, through analog drive pedals into the amp. And of course there are some effects, but for now the effects don't matter. It's more about the amp side first. And the result is a whole, I don't know, 50, 60 different parameters, and nobody can actually control them. So how to get that under control? We use neural technology. Neural is something I'm not familiar with. It's just, we have a digital guy that says, yeah, I know what to do with this, how to clean up that mess and get you what you want. Because I tried manually, analog, dialing in all the ports, double checked versus the amp. It's possible, you know? But okay, and now this kind of digital system controls all these endless parameters. So, and this is why we call it a neural analog amp.
Mm-hmm. So you have this digital technology which is controlling stuff within the amp, and yet the signal itself remains analog.
Absolutely.
From in to out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the benefit now of the digital control is you can save it, you can make presets, you do the whole 9 yards of the digital world. And that's the usability that we all want, or that some people want. And that's already there. And now with amp X, we are at a point where we kind of have like Frankenstein on the analog side, kind of having the bones and the flesh, but the brain is not working yet. So this is, you know, I cannot unveil the amp X and play it for you because it is so fucking complex. We are still working on its brain.
Yeah.
And this will take some time. Maybe we can show the picture of the office. This is me in the office, and this is 2021. And you know, all these post-it stuff is different little projects connected with the amp X. And we are in the middle of everything. So, yeah. But for me, it's time to let you know where we are. And I always say we are finished when we are finished, because if the product is not reliable, we shouldn't release it. You know, we have to finish it. But what I'm saying is, this thing is so different from anything out there. We have to develop groundbreaking new technology, and then it's like, you know, make Frankenstein walk, you know, and maybe even dance. Once it's you can learn the guy, you know. There's, you know, this is kind of the beauty of digital technology. Once he makes his first repeatable move, this guy can be fast, very powerful, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about amp X. And having a digital processor that controls this kind of endless parameters, of course, it's a no-brainer to come up with effects and then go the whole 9 yards and make this kind of my pedal board and my amp with pre-effects, with post-effects, with blue box built in. And I came up with 5 blue boxes in the end because I wanted to go mono. I wanted to go stereo. I wanted to go wet, dry, wet. I wanted to go even a full range flat response cabinet. You never know. I'm not convinced at this point, but you know, technology will advance, and So I'm future ready with all these kind of things.
Yeah. A lot of questions coming in already about potential release dates or maybe even pre-order dates. Can you say anything with certainty, or is it kind of like we're going to wait and release it when it's ready?
Sure. I mean, we need to be honest about everything. I mean, if we do pre-order, I mean, we should have a deadline that will ship, because, you know, pre-order shouldn't be too far from shipping. I'm also checking what other companies are doing, and there's a lot of frustration when...
It's important to do it right if you do a pre-order. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And so pre-order will be for shipping. And release, oh man, I hope we will do it this year. Yes, this year. Oh, that hurts. I hope for better sooner than later. But, you know, some parts of the amp go smooth, and others where you don't expect anything is like we lose a month. Sometimes it's on us, sometimes it's on suppliers. COVID actually does not help in that respect, because the interaction is not as we wanted. Production, we have, you know, we are not at a level where, oh yeah, it's okay, let's start mass production. It is, you know, the data is all there and everything, but it's, you know, Frankenstein is still on the table. So that's where we are. And of course, I understand that you guys are so curious as myself. I tell you how it is, how it's going to be. I will have my personal pedal board, the one that I played the last 5-6 years with, in the Amp X, because then I'm back to normal for myself. And when you see me gigging with that pedal board, I hope we can have gigs soon enough. But when you see me gig with that Amp X with that pedal board inside, then it's about time we talk about pre-order and stuff, because I want to check it myself. And there will be all the stuff on my pedal board will be in there. That particular wah-wah, that particular post delay, even my replex. The good news is the replex already works, because that was kind of a test for checking if we can have effects as authentic as I wish they should be. You know, it's like everybody knows I'm a big fan of the replex tube tape echo with the wobble effect, and just that is a thing. I know many other tape style effects, but I don't have a proper replacement for the replex. It's still the replex. I have 4 of them. You know, it's like I have 4 replexes just because it's part of my tone. And there's no compromise. If I have some other delays, but then they don't have that magic. And we came up with something that we even can mimic the flutter effect to a specific effect. Not like we create a sine wave and a triangle wave and make something new similar to something. No, we can copy the original flutter of a particular device. So I can have my replex on my pedal board, and I can make another tape echo that sounds like a Roland or whatever. We just analyze that tape echo and we can duplicate that particular tape echo. And of course, guys, I mean, you are waiting for the amp, but all these details have to be analyzed. And this is why stuff takes that long.
Yeah.
So I could talk for hours, but I think we have to.
Yeah, we'll go to some of the questions.
Yeah.
Let the guys know what they want to know.
Yeah.
So Sven Becker says, would it be possible to store and switch between the analog boost and overdrive settings?
Between the analog boost and overdrive, yeah, sure. So the amp has kind of a boost setting, and it has a drive pedal setting, and it has amp settings. So imagine you would have a bunch of boost pedals you would have, with of course their settings that will be memorized with the preset then. With overdrive pedals the same, and the same with amps. So no brainer, easy.
And of course it won't be a case of switching between them, but it will also be, you'll have the possibility to combine effects, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You're not limited to using one overdrive pedal or one booster.
No, let's explain it that way. You can use one overdrive and one booster and one amp. I can't, but in these three, because I limited the whole thing in a way that we don't get to a territory where it's nonsense. Like a high gain in front of a high gain in front of another high gain, and then self-destroying the unit makes no sense. But the way the layout is, there is a booster, a drive pedal, and the gain or no gain or whatever amp, and this gives you tons of options.
Yeah.
There is, for the weird shit, even a special kind of thing. So I have a backdoor for weird stuff, but I think it should be clear that the layout has a certain structure because it's analog and it's kind of hardwired inside. And it's not like the digital guys where they can move different blocks and another block, and they have like whatever 10 of these chained up.
Yeah. Okay. So it won't be, in that sense, it won't have the flexibility of, let's say, a helix or something like that.
Yeah.
But it will be all about what is actually useful for guitar players.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point. If you have a helix, there's tons of gain possible. I mean, gain is just one parameter that we all understand. Yeah. But we can get to this kind of maximum gain thing. But in the analog world, I was about to structure it in a way, and I might even limit some gain in combinations. Just imagine I would have a Soldano and it would have high gain, and then I would have an extra overdrive pedal that gives a tone, a character. I probably will limit it somewhere to get out of the range where it's nonsense, because some customers, they send back units and it's not broken, it's just fucked up in the way they set it. Yeah, so I learned my lesson here too. So the stuff will be analog and super, super flexible for analog, anything I can dream of. But it's, if you want the weirdest sound machine for whatever, your weirdest fantasies, you can still have your helix and use it in the effects loop, you know? So, and then you can make the self-destroying noise.
Exactly. Then you have the best of the both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah. What about presets with Ampex? Will it come with a bunch of presets,
Sure.
or will people have the chance to make their own? Or
Absolutely. I mean, it's the thing about programmable amps. It has, it will have presets. It will have classics. I already talked to some of my friends that are, demonstrators for other brands like Roland and Line 6 and stuff, and they all, behind the scenes we are all buddies. Anyhow, we have, we drink beer, we are friends, we talk, and some of the guys will make presets, because I will do presets myself too, but it's great to have more different influences, and that's a good thing to have those people at hand.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to get to hear some. I'm not saying the names yet, but yeah, we'll have presets, and then of course you can change whatever, and that's possible.
yeah, sure. I've got an interesting question from Hardy, who says, is it possible to use the Amp 1 as a second power stage to get a stereo setup?
Absolutely.
And is the Amp X able to switch the Amp 1 via MIDI to the settings for the momentary used sound coming from the Amp X? I don't quite understand.
Yeah, that's a little bit funky. Is the Amp X able to switch the Amp 1 by MIDI to the settings for the momentary used sound coming from the Amp X? Something is, well, I mean, there's a MIDI out on the Amp X, and the MIDI out can be used to switch something on the Amp 1. So if you want, you could use our MIDI 1 adapter and the amp out from the MIDI out from the amp X into the MIDI adapter and the MIDI 1 into the amp 1, and then you can control the functions of the amp 1 like power, so like second gain, like all that's all possible.
Yeah, but I guess what you couldn't do is make any new sounds with the amp 1. The amp 1 does what the amp 1 does, and you can't use the amp X to make the amp 1 do things that it would not normally do otherwise.
Yeah. I mean we are analog, and that's the big thing. And this is why I want to talk about this level now, that you get a clear understanding of where we are and what is analog actually, and where the limitations are.
Yeah. Any idea when we might have the first sound samples?
I look in this direction. Yeah, this guy is dancing. Yeah. Is he writing something? Stay tuned. Yeah. Yeah, stay tuned in the next live streams. I'm talking about a plural S here. Yeah, hey guys, I'm totally into that as well. I don't use the Spider prototype for sound demonstrations here because it's enough for me to know that's everything possible. But it's like I want the real thing, and as I said, it's like my Frankenstein brain has to work, and this is the guy here, which is in his quarantine at home programming software code, day in, day out.
Yeah. So it's at a stage where you can play it and hear it and stuff, but we're not quite ready to showcase it to the world yet.
Yeah. So hey, give us at least a month or two. So that's tough, but that's how it is. Okay. Good.
So we have Goober is saying he gets the impression that we got to see it at NAMM last year, as I did as well. I remember coming to see it when I was working for a different company and thinking, oh my God, but actually it's not quite ready yet. But there are real reasons for that, right?
Absolutely.
And there's no point pushing it out when it's not 100% ready.
No, and the biggest thing is I wanted to show that at NAMM 2020 because it's such a big thing, maybe game changer. You decide about that. But for me, it is the biggest step in analog amplification. Because nobody has done this. Nobody. It's not just that little next step. It's like 10 steps. That's where the X comes from. It's not amp2, it's not amp3 and 4. It is amp X. And this is, I showed that as a study because I want to show the decade of 2020 starts with a big concept in my head. And of course, I had people asking me, and having a study is good because by getting questions at that time, I was thinking about some features, and it's like, oh, maybe he's right. And so this, I think it was absolutely positive because it started already the buzz, but I already had like people telling me I would expect this and that from that amp X, and then most 99.5% I said, yeah, it's no problem. I thought the same way. But a few things here and there, I thought, wow, the way he asked, I have to change little things. And I did change. You will see the amp X that we have now is not the one that you have seen. The foot switches are moved a little bit. The flap is different. Some names are different because there's a concept behind it, But you have to start somewhere, and you have to make a vision, and this is what we've seen at NAMM 2020. And I spent the whole year in my back here, in the back of my head, thinking about the whole thing. Everything I saw was kind of, what's going on? How does it fit into this world? How can I benefit from that? And how do I do wet dry systems with a standard combo, or with an active monitor, or with a guitar cabinet? And so I came up, I don't know, 12 or 17 different cases of setups you can use. Weirdest stuff and then you think about the whole thing. Oh, how can I to record the whole thing? If I do that, but I want to do that. This. So, all that time, I was already living with this study in my head. I mean, even before the study, but this time is so precious because this will make the product a product that actually works for the real player like myself.
Yeah.
So the time is well spent.
Yeah, absolutely. A very important thing for the real player. Will there be a tuner on board?
Yes. It will be. It will have a tuner, and I have in downstairs here. Just drill a hole, and you will see tons of paper. Me designing tuners with a very limited amount of pixels, but the beauty of simplicity was my first record, and this comes true when you design stuff. So you can actually get stuff with very little if you do it right, if you reduce it to the max. And that's another aspect of this amp, And I have like 10 tuner designs, and then I look at it and then, no, number 3 is shit. That's working. And then I look to the display, and there's other thing. Yeah, but there's a tuner. Okay.
Yeah, good. We can all rest easy now. There's a tuner built in. Perfect.
Yes.
Talking about connectivity, talking about different setups.
Yeah.
You've been talking in the past about IRs.
Yeah.
What can you say about that at this point? Where are we with that?
IRs, this thing has, of course, the blue box IRs in there. And this is by 5, so there's literally 5 blue boxes in there. So on kind of any output even from the speaker out with the power amp that is built in, there's a blue box option. And then there's a blue box option for line left and right and blah, 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 and the recording. And then there are so many options, even for different tones and stuff. So, and of course, we can load third-party IRs, and I'm working on the dynamic IR kind of thing. We have a very powerful 16-core processor now, not 8 like we wrote. We went all the way, and then every core can make a blue box, and the rest will do this, and yeah. Looking at my digital engineer, he has sweat drops.
Yeah, he's tearing at his hair as we say this.
Yeah.
Here's a good question from Simon. He wrote it in German, so I'm just going to have to translate it.
Yeah.
He's talking about the idea of using external drive pedals and fitting them into the Ampex signal chain. So could he get his own external drive pedal and put it after the boost in the Ampex?
No. We don't have a loop for that. We have a boost for post amp. So, I mean, I'm talking about, you have a multi-effects unit, an H9 or your Strymon, whatever. That is possible. That loop is stereo. It's a mono send and a stereo return. In the preamp section, you have a guitar input. The whole thing is kind of self-contained. We don't have another loop there. Good question. That's one thing I didn't do because I know some people wish that, but I think we are so flexible that it's first not needed, and secondly, we have even the option to slide in digital stuff there, and the digital stuff opens up a whole nother door just in case we have the weirdest stuff that is not possible with our design. So in the end, I think the Amp X will do it.
Yeah.
That's at least my approach here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people asking about making sounds, and the question is coming up about, will there be USB connectivity to an app or something like that? How will people be able to program and save and maybe even share those presets with other players?
Yeah, so we will have a website with the name My Amp X, and on the website you can get different sounds. You can download different tone. We call it Blug prints.
Blueprints.
Anyway, and that there's effects blueprints and there's amp blueprints, and then of course you can store the stuff on the USB stick, and it's a bit more complex. These settings can be put on another amp, but the other amp needs to have the same kind of blueprints on it. We have, or we will ship with kind of the amp 1 sounds like Mercury and Iridium, and that's all kind of included. And then the boutique stuff we will actually sell for a price for many reasons. Let's put it that way. I want to be able to make crazy stuff non-compromise, and I'm already talking to double owners. So, I want to go all the way, and to fund that craziness, I need to have that door. And I think even in the standard configuration of the Amp X, there's enough, because it's like what is here already, plus this, plus that, plus standard effects, plus chorus, plus this type delay. Only the specialties, which I will be in my dreams happily spending the next 10 years, to do all this kind of sound design with the craziest pedals that I find, and put them in there with the craziest effects, and so this will be my new hobby.
Yeah, so the Amp X library is going to grow and grow, isn't it, as the years go by?
Yeah, that's the idea. At the beginning, we have to start with because our amp has to work first, and we will show with, and this is why we already did the replex. We can show that the potential is there, and it's not like, it's a nice reverb, or it's a nice tape delay. No, it's this tape delay, and that's the level I'm talking.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. What about MIDI connectivity? Can people use the remote one with it?
Yep.
Will there be a MIDI in and out?
There is a MIDI. There is a MIDI in and out. The way the MIDI in is, the remote one doesn't need a MIDI in, because it has a 1/4-inch jack, and that will work with the Amp X as well. And actually, we have, or we will have, a mounting kit, so the remote one can be connected directly to the Amp X, and then you have as many foot switches as you like, basically.
Yeah.
And I have plans for a smaller remote as well, to kind of to expand your system to your personal preference. It's like the Amp X has 6 foot switches built in, and there comes another 10 with the remote one, and then there is maybe another 5 with another product later. It's all on paper.
Yeah. Another question that is gone off the list there, but I saw from before, which was quite interesting, is somebody said it's a one-channel amp in a way, the Amp X. How will it work, let's say, if they're using a delay or a reverb and they want to switch between presets? Will there be tails for delay? Will you have that option?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the effects is that it's separate from the amp.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. When you switch on a digital device from one preset to another preset, the digital device has to load the whole entire modeling of the amps and the effects, and there's your gap. And this is why people use scenes on their helixes, which means they have one model and they just tweak the parameters in that model to get no gap. We will never have that gap by nature, because in-out is there. Maybe we have rare cases, but I can close the gap. That's and switching the analog effects is so fast. No problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Amp X is going to have the X-wings to put pedals on the sides. Will we have a 9-volt output to power the pedals, so we don't need an extra power supply? Good question, Flitzfunkel.
Flitzfunkel, yeah. We will have adapter, because our MIDI socket will have a 7-pin, will be 7-pin.
So it's powered.
It's powered, yeah. And this power on the 2 extra pins can be converted to 9-volt with a little adapter cable. So you don't have a power. And this is enough for standard pedals, not for tube-driven pedals, because that has too much current.
Yeah.
So, but for standard, yes. So that's possible.
Okay.
And it is part of the concept to integrate stuff on that side. But as more time goes on, the less you will need. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you have your homemade thing that I cannot copy because I don't know you, and then I'm happy if you use it in any way. That's I'm very curious what people will do with this product. Actually, it's like it's beyond some imagination. I tell you, it's more than, imagine the Edge with something like that, and then combined with his favorite whatever Korg A3 from the very early days. I'm ready for some great crazy stuff.
Talking about the Edge, specifically stuff like that, digital effects,
Yeah.
will we be able to use more than one delay pedal at the same time?
Yeah, we will have delays in front of the amp, and we will have a delay at the end or post the amp. So, and then we will offer different delay types, and then you can have like a stereo post delay, and of course the pre-delay is only mono. But the combinations of this is like endless. It's like, no problem.
Yeah, we got a question coming in from God Guitars, Guns and Goats, which is an interesting username, saying that you've previously mentioned having deals or arrangements with certain other brands, and he names Friedman, Morgan, etc., maybe supplying their own sounds somehow to Ampex. Is that a possibility? Can you comment more on that?
Yeah, sure. I talked to Dave Friedman already about it, and he said, "Oh, let's see what's going on." So he was kind of diplomatic about it, but I'm open to that. I think it will be, some people will watch the whole thing and see where it goes, and then. But I'm open. That's the good thing about this platform. This platform is open. I'm personally open, and as the customer has to pay some money for the stuff, I can reward the engineer. So I don't want to steal any intellectual property, or I don't want to steal anybody's sound designs and then here it's for free. So if somebody has something special, hey, let's work together. It's all about making customers happy, make you guys happy, and offer something special. And it's not about me getting rich, it's about making it possible. The whole thing is just a big hole where you sink all your money for the last years and now. And of course we have to recoup some of the costs, but it's not about, for me, I got a car, I have a roof, everything is sorted, and so it's more about making this all possible. Yeah. I didn't win in the lottery.
Can you imagine a point in the future where you're kind of having polls of the users to find out what they would want to hear, kind of in terms of effects and amps, pedals,
that's the thing. We have live streams, we can communicate. And of course, I want to make myself happy first. So my first edition is just for myself. So guys, sorry, you will not be happy. But as soon as this is stable working, and if I'm happy, next level is I'm happy. I don't have to care about anything anymore. It's on you. So if we probably make something, on the website, and then offer something, and then we can see everybody wants a GCM 800, and then then we start with that one before we go to the next one.
Yeah, I already saw a question earlier about the Van Halen Variac amp. Will it be in there?
Well, it's all the stuff. It's all the stuff that we all like, but it's time. It takes time, So it's possible, and we have a passion for it. So why not?
Yeah, I'm just trying to translate another German language question that we have here from Stefan Hardekopf.
Yeah.
As well as
Okay.
The usual mix ready dynamic. I
Amp
asked,
in the
will there,
rooms.
will there also be amp in a room sounds for headphones or for linear speakers?
We have reverb options there, and so there will be something. At the beginning, it will be not as rich as you wish, but yeah, we can go this way, and this is on my list too.
Yeah. Here's a good question from Patrick. How does the Ampex user interface make it easy to adjust parameters live while performing? He's talking about delay mix, delay treble, modulation speed, overdrive, etc., etc.
So the MX has a flap, and when the flap is closed, you have a button for delay, and you have a knob for reverb, and you have a button for modulation effect. So this is kind of the panic mode, and this is like easy direct access. You know, okay, fuck the delay off, and you can decide if it's all delays or just the post delay. That's all on the user, and the reverb as much as you like on the amp one. But when you open the flap, you have like 4 buttons, and then you can dial in which effect you want. Let's say you have a post, and then you make effects, reverb, and then you can, the reverb has already a control, but maybe like delay. And then there are 4 dedicated knobs. We call them the X controls now. And they are assigned to the active effect, which makes it super easy to dial in your delay, for instance. So you have time, feedback, tone, and volume. And yeah, dial that in, and you have them physically. You have 4 knobs dedicated on that. And then you have your dedicated boost knob, and you have your dedicated, which is now the power drive, power amp drive knob. I didn't call it power soak again, because soak is different effects. Yeah, so that's the thing about accessibility. For me, it's like the pedal board is under the hood, under the flap, and if everything is right, you don't need to open the flap even. So everything is like protected, and it's like you're not looking at too many things in front of you. So it's super clean. If you open the flap, you get all these stuff, and it is kind of a very analog setting there. As smart as I could think to put all in such a little tiny device.
Yeah, and with delay, for example, it's going to be very similar to if you have, you know, a 3 or 4 knob delay analog pedal in front of you on the floor.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah, and the parameters will light up and show you what they are, so you know it's delay time. And if that delay has no time, for instance, but it will have time, then it will simply not light up. And you see all these knobs will be usable, functional.
Okay. And Lars Flamen says, can you build your own amps with the Ampex, or do you just download different amp models and load them in?
I don't let you build your own amps, not yet. That's part of the concept. In theory, everything is possible, but I don't want that. I tell you, the reason for that is I don't want to flood the world with second-hand markets, 2,000s of different amps, which we all see with other products. And that works fine for campers, especially because a camper profile is one sound, it's a snapshot of an amp. Once you dial in the tone controls on a camper, it's not that amp anymore. It loses the original character. I will go another way. I will actually reproduce a particular amp with all the variations possible on the amp. So we don't need to have 300 different GCM 800s. You will get one that is as flexible and that can do all that. And if I would open the software book, first, you wouldn't know how to deal with it because it's way too complex. It is way beyond any XFX. It's even for me a thing. I know what Mr. Frankenstein has for knee and elbows and fingers and how to tweak that. to make a good sound. But I mean, I could reduce that, but no, let me do it properly. You get your amp and you get all these pedals and you get tons of options. Keep life under control at that side. That's my philosophy.
Yeah. Under control doesn't mean that they won't be able to tweak, of course.
No.
So it's like they will have a selection of amps and they will be able to tweak those amps to their heart's content. So, you know, presence, resonance, volume, the
all
tone
these
controls.
Everything is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe I can even offer like private tweakings. Like if I can play the amp doctor, it's like, okay, you know, somebody comes to me, my name is, just make up something. My name is Larry Carlton. I'm getting old. I want my whole rig now in this amp X. And I said, okay, bring your 335. And then I tailor an amp to his, and even go beyond what is existing. It's like, okay, this is his favorite amp. But then he said, maybe I want more of that. And then, okay, let's have a look. And this is the way. But I'm involved in that process. And that will... I'm looking forward to this enormous things that's yeah. Sometimes I'm not sure if I'm in a dream, but it will be. There's some nice stuff coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. For myself too. I mean, this is why I do it, and this is also why I do it that way. Otherwise, I'm out of control, and. I want to collaborate. I want to work with people. I want to interact with people, and that will be part of it. Being it a designer, an artist, you know, or just a friend, or you know, it opens that complete book.
Yeah, absolutely. What about latency? A couple of questions about that. What about latency when switching? Are we going to experience that, or is it going to be instant?
Instant.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe some reverb effect will be a bit later because it's big and fat, but the dry signal will always be there. So no latency.
Yeah. Osmium Studio says, will there be any delays? Yes. Will there be a gate on the Ampex? Yeah.
Yeah, there will be a gate, and the gate is kind of very sophisticated. We already showed our gate in the amp once, and this one can even offer more. And oh man, we have so many options of things like bias tremolos and things that you don't think about because you are limited in your world, what you know. But you know, having the neural kind of brain controlling all this funky things stuff that is beyond anything you could imagine.
Yeah.
Even what I could imagine. So, you know, but we have to start with the basics. I would be happy that the whole thing can play, but it will come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stefan says he hopes he's not trolling, but he honestly wonders what you would do to a person who cleaned your guitar.
Well, it depends on how sensitive you clean my guitar. My grandmother would have ruined the guitar. She would take the, attar and make it proper clean. Yeah, and it would smell like, no. I actually did clean my guitar once with just a little water drenched cloth. But that's, yeah. Let my guitar as it is.
We're getting a few questions about people asking about specific pedals.
Yeah.
So maybe you can explain the concepts behind that a little bit more. For example, Marcel asks, is there a TS-808 built in?
Ah, yes. There it is. Where is it? It's on my list. It's here, and I've done it. A TS-808 is a piece of cake. It's a joke, to be honest. Everybody dreams about it, and I can even replicate a few different ones if that's needed. But that's a good one, so we will have one good one and then leave me alone. Or we do a TS9 then, But it's a piece of that's a piece of cake. Amps are way more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's on the list.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not about specifically building those pedals in, but it's about building in the capabilities to make those sounds, right? So Marcel shouldn't think of it as actually being a physical 808 in there.
Well, the 808 will be physically pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that one. Because one thing about that pedal is it is a drive pedal with not so much gain, so it's not critical. That's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
There's other things that are more delicate, I know already.
Yeah.
But that's a piece of cake.
So the answer is the TS-808 is built in that you have the options to make that exact effect if you so wish.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Here's an interesting comment kind of in the opposite direction from Kevin. And he says he honestly believes that the multi-effects function might distract and put off some guitarists from the real amazing functionality of the Amp-X, which I guess is a danger, right? Until you realize the simplicity of the control system.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I have the flap, because
do we have a picture of the flap? So people can see what we're talking about?
We show.
We can't show the flap yet.
I mean,
forget the flap.
We have a flap from last year, but there will be a new flap. You will see soon. You can look at the website. You see the old flap.
Yeah.
It will be similar, but this will be different. Anyway.
You guys are going to flip when you see the flap. Right?
Flip flop.
Yeah.
But here's my point. In my life, the only post effect I'm using is this little pedal delay. And this pedal delay here is, and I'm not using a big rack system, 100 of things, and I don't want to see all that shit. So for me, when I press FX, I have that pedal, and it's all, because there will be a favorite, and I can fine tune it to me. So like even when I have these 4 amp types, which we took from the Amp 1 concept. There's a clean, a vintage, a classic, and modern. We still have the same switch there. But you can have your favorite clean amp behind that, and you have your favorite classic amp behind it. So basically, the Amp-X can be an Amp 1 as well. And we'll simply operate that. It will be just a few more foot switches. And in case you want just a little pedal delay, it's possible.
Yeah.
So the minimalism aspect is also possible, because that's something that I hate with most digital products. It's like, man, which button did I press? I'm lost. I'm frustrated, and I'm not stupid. I know what this unit should be doing, and I know about MIDI, and I know about all this, and it's like, man, this is too much. And for me, one aspect was so important, to reduce it and to reduce the whole thing, that it's just what it's needed. So you can tailor the whole thing, strip it down to the essentials, having all the other stuff in the background. But when in my dreams, the whole thing is close the flap, done. At the beginning I will tweak and adjust the presets a bit, but I'm very sure after 5-6 gigs, the flap is closed, and I will work on a new sound just for fun. But my live rig is done, and I don't have to think about it, because it's all programmed and my settings are correct. I will have a post EQ to fine tune it a little bit to the room, which is not too dramatic. Done. Happy days.
Yeah, this is one of the disadvantages that I personally have experienced with modeling amps.
Yeah.
There are simply too many options.
Yeah.
And there is a term that we use called option paralysis, where you have a million different things you can tweak and you have no idea what half of them are actually doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, are they helping my sound, or am I actually just making things worse by taking this out and adding some of this in?
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do with Amp-X is reduce the possibility of option paralysis or too many effects that can actually decrease the quality of the sound.
Absolutely. I try to make, my experience over decades is there to make something that helps people and doesn't distract people. I mean, of course, we all have to compromise, because with a certain amount of flexibility comes something. But I wanted to create even a new format of product, a format that an analog mindset can relate to. So the Amp-X controls is physical knobs for your delay. Even if you don't read the manual, after clicking a few buttons once in a while, you will find out, oh, it can do, it can simply work as I would think it should work. This is part of my concept. And then there is a whole deeper level. If you want to go there, it's all up to you. But it's so important not to see in a big dark hole where there's no end. I mean, and this is what I see in endless menus. We have all that stuff too, but somewhere where it's out of the way.
Yeah.
And the same is like with the connectivity. There is an XLR balanced out. There is a transformer in the XLR built in, and it's this kind of double thing which gives you line in the middle on a 1/4 inch, or the balanced mic level for like a blue box, and so there is not too many jacks and things. And of course, this is why we don't have this extra effect loop in the preamp, because again, we can make everything, or where do we stop? And I have a certain vision for the whole thing, and this is what it does, and this is what it does not do. Of course, you can go crazy and wild and do a lot of things, but somehow I find it natural to have some limitations. Unless you want to go totally crazy, then enter the digital world, buy an XFX3 and become a programmer. I've done that. I actually made that kind of experience, and it's great, but not for me.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is why there's room for other products, and this is why BluGuitar makes BluGuitar products with my mindset. And if you don't like it, fair enough. You know, there's plenty of nice colleagues offering great products, and there's still a room for a nice tweed old Fender. And not everybody needs to play the Amp X, but a lot of them will enjoy it, like myself. I think we still have questions, but
we're not going to be able to answer all the questions.
I think
tonight,
we already have the time limit.
Yep, we've run over already. So what we will do is collect the questions, and we will answer them in subsequent weeks. Come to us on Facebook and Instagram, ask us there as well, and we will answer as many as we can, but there are just so many coming in that we can't answer them all at this stage anyway. Yeah.
So all I can say, it's going to be totally exciting the whole year. I hope the music will come, especially for me, because I need to test the whole thing live. I'm happy that we are still not able to play live because it's not working yet. But the first moment I can actually play, hey, where's my Amp X? Where's my Amp? I want to use all the year to get to this Amp X. This is the year of Amp X for me. This is all I think from day in, day out, from morning to night. And I already did a lot last year, but now is my time. And we keep you posted in all the live stream episodes. Yeah, maybe we just put them on a piece of paper and answer them next episode, next week.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe in every live stream from now on, we can devote a few minutes just to answering the key questions that keep coming up. And
I will show you some stuff step by step.
Yeah, and the one thing that we mentioned at the start of the show, but we didn't have time to say, was that maybe this year, who knows, there might be a few shows coming up later in the year that we can physically go to and meet some of you guys. Who knows, there might be a guitar summit, there might even be a summer NAMM.
I'm hoping for all that, because I really miss to meet people in person, and I really look forward to it. I was talking to a guy from Lufthansa today. The guy from the Musiker board, you know him? Yeah, he is a Fluglotse. Guiding the
air traffic control.
Traffic control. Okay, so and you know, behind the scenes we are already making plans. Okay, what is Lufthansa doing with their stuff? What do they expect? How could things work? Because you know, I want to fly to the US. I want to fly there and blah blah blah. But yeah, so this year is totally exciting, and it's weird like crazy. Everything is so different. But on the other hand, it's so I'm so excited about this year. It's unbelievable. It's like, this will be the year with the Amp X, and this will be when I can, you know, do this and that. Wow, yeah. To have a nice outro, back from the list of 50 years ago, Baba O'Reilly. I played that We played that, and we have the whole thing with the orchestra, because I was playing that with our 80-piece symphony orchestra here in Saarbrücken, and I think over the next episodes we can also go into other songs. There are 100 songs, and I kind of know 50 of them. So, hey, thanks for joining in. See you next week with more information.
Yep, thanks a lot, guys.
Stay tuned.